What's up, Scarred Ones? It's Johnny. Welcome to the next installment of our intensive care episodes. This one's going to be going over a couple things. The scheduling for Season 3, a push for reviews, a reason, and a really good one, to subscribe to us on Patreon, and maybe a little more exploring on some personal writings of mine. So let's get started. Season 3 is progressively working towards our first ever mid-season finale. That's right, we're going to be breaking off the season at 3-8, as we call it, or for you guys. We're going to be breaking it off at episode 8, and that should be somewhere around the midsummer. And then we're going to break for a couple mini episodes, and then come back with a mid-series premiere. We're doing our best to try to actually work our seasons to where they're kind of in the vein of television shows where you have a season per year, and 2018 is going to be the year for season 3, and 2019 will be the year for season 4. I know a lot of podcasts do multiple seasons a year, and we're just trying to do something a little different, but also give plenty of variety to mix into mini episodes to maybe explore some other avenues of Morston, Texas, and our different factions and characters that you haven't got a chance to really hear more about. Now, we've been receiving a lot of messages and a lot of emails about the Season 2 finale. And if you haven't heard the Season 2 finale, then you probably shouldn't be listening to some of these ICE episodes because there's a lot of spoilers in them, and this one's going to be no different. So, spoiler warning, I'll give you a minute. Well, not a minute, I don't want to hear and sell. I'll give you a few more seconds. And, alright. The resolution to Matthew Finnis's arc is... I'm joking. But it is going to be answered. So, bear with us. We have a amazing structure in place, and I know that we got a lot of good love on the Shutter Love story, no pun intended, and we are always wanting to keep delivering you guys great standalone anthology-styled stories that are woven into our universe, but at the same time, we always want to keep with the overarching story. And I know by being a bi-weekly podcast, sometimes, unlike the television world, it can get a little antsy waiting for the answers. And I just want to reassure you, they are coming. We haven't forgotten about Matthew Finnis. Still not sure if he's alive or if he's dead. But I can tell you that you will know the answer to that question this year. But for now, I want to sit back and let you guys know that Episode 3 coming up is an amazing episode. It's got a lot of development for a very important character of ours, Harper Powers. So we'll be hearkening back to a little more of his arc, which is going to be important going forward for Season 3. But I just want to let you know that we have received the feedback, and if I haven't messaged you back personally or emailed you back personally, I apologize. We are still all here working full-time jobs and trying to manage this show as it's ever growing and growing and growing. So that being said, we are looking at different avenues for, financial support for the podcast. And as I've said in previous ICE episodes, I've tried my best to stay away from the traditional advertising of... Well, again, I don't advertise with them, so it's not like I can be hearkened by them. But there's razor clubs. There's like 1 or 2 of them, sometimes 3 that I hear advertised. A bunch of food preparations that I hear advertised. Again, I'm an avid podcast listener, and there's nothing against that. I'm so glad that these businesses have decided to give these shows opportunity to monetize their creations. But as a fan of podcasts, I don't want to, be just another one telling you the exact same thing you just heard 3 other times this week from similar avenues of advertising. So if we do go into advertising in the future, or if and when, because it will happen, but it's going to be very in the vein of Morston, Texas, and I'll just leave it at that for now. But for right now, we are still completely a listener-funded show and a co-creator-funded show. So all the creators of the show are funding it. And I just don't want to downplay this because it's really important. We need more listeners, and the best way for us to get more listeners is for you to tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family members. As you can tell, we are a horror podcast, but we are also a drama, and there's a lot of character development. So I've noticed in my own circles that a lot of people like very story-driven stuff, deep character development stuff like Dexter or Game of Thrones or Walking Dead happen to be very huge fans of our show. People are just fans of lore and intertwining storylines, and that's what we have here. It's as David Cummings said the other day on his live stream, it's a very different kind of show, and we want to keep doing that, interlacing the standalone stories with the overarching story. And the best way for us to continue that and to grow the show is for you to tell a friend or family member, and big capital A-N-D, please, if you have not reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, not just a rating, but an actual review, go out and do so right now. Just pause it. Promise I'm going to ramble on about some cooler things, but you can come back. All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for that review. It is really going to help, I promise. So Patreon, you can join us for just $1. If you've heard these ICE episodes, if you've heard some of the after show stuff of our other episodes during season 2, I've talked about Patreon before. And again, it's an amazing platform. I know there's a lot of negative press here and there about how it works, but for us, it's a really cool avenue for us to receive funding for the show and at the same time be able to reach out and reward those who do. And right now, live is Sirenicide Live, the video. So we had the Harvest of 1928 when we got to open for the NoSleep podcast when they came through Houston back on March 3rd at the House of Blues. And that was shot from 3 different 1080 angles. And it's got a lot of live audio, clapping. And it's a really, really immersive video because you get to hear the crowd interactions and the clapping and the people busting open their beers and things like that while we're putting off this, what is considered a canon story. I mean, the story of the Harvest of 1928 does fit into the narrative of our show. And I would love for you to be able to go out and hear that. For right now, it is only available to our Patreons. So for just $1, you can subscribe to our Patreon and you'll see links to that video in the Patreon feed. And it also opens up my next topic. We have a Patreon group. Now that group, when it was originally started, was just a forum for people to talk about Sirenicide. As it wasn't growing like we had hoped it would right off, we decided to make it only a Patreon group. Well, we've opened that group up again, and it's called The Scarred Ones. That's right. You Scarred Ones. It's for you, the fans, to interact with fans. You don't have to be a Patreon supporter to be in it. So if you want to hop on Facebook right now and look for The Scarred Ones, that is a Sirenicide support group. You can go in there and talk about all the ailments these doctors have done to you and the weird creatures you've been seeing in the woods. It's got a lot of great friends, family members, supporters of the show, actors on the show, writers on the show, a lot of good group interaction. So if you haven't joined it yet, it's The Scarred Ones, and it's free, and hopefully you can add your friends to it and help grow the show, because there's a lot of fun memes and stuff like that get shared in there too. So join it. It's at the ground level right now. We're about right at, I can't remember if we're over 1,000 members yet or not, but we're somewhere around there. So go and check it out and join the conversation. However, we have an exclusive group that is Patreon support only, and that live video is active in that group right now, as well as a weekly vlog I've been doing for that group too, where you get to hear me talking about certain things about the characters, the storylines, and things like that are for that intense, very caught up Sirenicide fan that just wants to know more and hungers for more. And we do some exclusive videos into the writers' rooms when all the writers are together, behind the scenes production things. A lot of good things are be going down in that new group, and that is not one you can search for because it's a hidden group. Yeah, super secrets. But join Patreon for just $1 and you have access to that group. So I'm done airing myself out and begging for money for the night, I promise. There's another group, a lot of group talk. We could just name this ICE episode Groups Galore. There's the NoSleep book club. Now, if you join that, it is headed up by Jessica McAvoy, a very familiar voice as Lena Klein on our show and a very dear friend of mine. And she heads up this amazing book club. It's got a lot of great NoSleep authors in it. I'm reading a book right now called Infected that I know a lot of people have read because it came out years ago, but I somehow had it pass me by. So, Scott Siegler, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but his book Infected, I'm reading that. That's April's book of the month. And it's just a lot of cool conversation about that. But the really cool thing is there's also writing prompts in there, and that the group collectively decides on a writing prompt for the month. Like this month's theme is aliens, and I'm finishing up my short story for that. And you can go in there and read it. Now, if you don't want to join clubs and groups to see the stories I'm writing, you can also go to Sirenicide.com, and on our homepage, right underneath the news and the Twitter feed, you'll see links to my short stories that aren't necessarily part of our show, but are there for if you just want a quick read and a once-over. And they are kind of creepy and engaging. But that's about it for tonight. It's nighttime right now. It's Monday night. I just got off work, believe it or not. End of the month in the sales industry. And I just want to, again, I appreciate each and every one of you Scarred Ones for joining me, listening to this ICE episode. And don't worry, a week from today, because you'll be hearing this tomorrow, a week from Tuesday, we have Sirenicide, Episode 3 for Season 3. And I'm not going to spoil the title. So just keep an eye out. It's coming. Some really cool artwork. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. All elements of Sirenicide are copyright 2018 by Atrium Dynamics unless otherwise stated. Any duplication of this production without the secured written consent of Atrium Dynamics is strictly prohibited. Please visit Sirenicide.com for more details.